All right. Well, look, it's time to get into the reigning, defending AFC East champion Buffalo Bills, ladies and germs. The Buffalo Bills obviously had themselves a pretty good season last year. Fell short. Obviously, we all know how that game went. One of the greatest games that people have ever seen, honestly. That ranks up there with my top 5 games ever watched. The Bills season came up short, and nobody circles those wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills win total is set at 11.5 everywhere. Pretty much everywhere you look, 11.5 seems to be the popular number. Now, last year, 10-7? Yes.
10-7.
Which, it blows my mind that they went 10-7. Because that team, the way they were built, the way they made their run-ish, felt like a better team than 10-7. But anyway, Vegas seems to think that they've gotten a little better. So let's go over it. Some key losses. Not that many, to be honest with you. A lot of backups, role players. Backup quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, is one of the guys that skipped town. He might be starting in Pittsburgh week 1. He probably will be starting in Pittsburgh week 1. Jerry Hughes, edge rusher. Mario Addison, edge rusher. A couple edge rushers were lost in the offseason for the Buffalo Bills. Now, I say all that with like, oh man, they got to address the outside, the edge. Well, insert Von Miller. So I think they did okay with replacing that. Matt Breida goes to the Giants, which I didn't even think he was in the league anymore, to be honest with you. Brian Cox Jr., who I'm assuming that's Brian Cox's son. He skips town, goes to the Colts. Their draft, not like exciting, but again, Elam's going to come in right away and play corner and start at corner. James Cook, Dalvin's little bro, he'll be playing running back for the Bills. He might get some volume right off the rip because when you look at this team, Gooch, outside the quarterback, who, by the way, they bring in Case Keenum, so they got the best backup in the league. Running back room is loaded. Might be too overcrowded, to be honest with you. It's Devin Singletary. They drafted Cook. They still got Zach Moss. They signed Duke Johnson. They got 4 guys. I'm going to assume that all 4 will not make this team. Either Zach Moss or Duke Johnson will be a free agent come season start. There's no way you keep 4 running backs. It doesn't happen. Their receivers, pretty damn good, pretty damn fast. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. We've talked a lot about him in the coming weeks or the last couple of weeks about his fantasy implications. He could blow up. They bring in Jamison Crowder. So this is a better situation for Crowder to be in. Dawson Knox, all world. You know who they brought in under the radar as a second tight end? O.J. Howard.
Nice.
You know so these guys are adding, and their offensive line is just gritty and just big and just awesome, especially Deion Dawkins, who, by the way, shout out to his brother, the Jaguar, who I wrestled with for fucking 4 or 5 years. His brother is Deion Dawkins and plays in the NFL, so you can imagine what that family's going through. Their defensive line, scary, bro, scary. It's Rosé, it's Oliver, it's Jack Lawson. Like, they're good, man. It's like linebacker, Milano, Miller, Edmonds, the corners, Tre'Davious White, their Elam rookie, Poyer as their safety, Hyde as their other safety. Gooch, I bring you the question, where's the weakness? Where is the weakness on
They
this
definitely
team?
don't have a weakness. I would say
Pretty nuts. I mean,
their weakness would probably be running inside the tackles, but Devin Singletary down the stretch last year actually kind of ran the ball effectively in between the tackles. So I would say that would be their one glaring thing that stands out to me. And potentially the cornerback situation with Tre'Davious White coming off of the ACL injury fairly late in the year. It was Thanksgiving Day, I believe he tore his ACL. So, but they fared well without him last year. So I don't know. I think that it's tough as you look at the Bills. I did call for a regression last year, and I guess you could say I was right because they won 12 games the year before. They had an extra game and they lost 2 more.
That's just stats,
right?
And analytics. Apparently, I like analytics now.
Yeah, Dave's a big analytics guy. So, looking up and down the offense, I think Diggs is going to have a bounce back year. He did have a down year in terms of wide receiver 1 and what the expectation was, but with the emergence of the Gabriel Davis, the emergence of a Dawson Knox, the emergence of the addition of a Jamison Crowder to run the little crossing routes underneath. And look, Dalvin Cook's little brother, he's going to get the ball a lot out of the gate. I think he's, in terms of, we're talking dynasty leagues, I feel like you might draft him higher than a Devin Singletary because I think going forward he might be the guy. But I don't think that he's going to be, he's a little similar to Singletary is that he can't really carry the load. He's a smaller guy, more of a third down back. I think that's how he projects, but we'll see. Defensively, Micah Hyde's one of my favorite players in the history of football. The guy's a ball hawk. He's like a Charles Woodson light, if that makes sense. Definitely has turnover after turnover, year after year, and I was always pissed off when the Packers let him go. But Tre'Davious White, I mentioned his injury. Russo coming back this year on his second year, another year of experience. The Bills are poised to make a run. We could get into the schedule now.
This is where I might have some hesitations because as much as I say there's no weakness in this Bills roster, and I think they're really, really good, their schedule is brutal. Like when I say brutal, I don't know what it ranks. Maybe somebody could tell me what it ranks in strength of schedule. But boy, oh boy, it is tough.
There's one thing you guys didn't bring up, though.
Uh-oh.
Their offensive coordinator for the past 5 years is now the head coach of the New York Giants.
Oh.
So they bring in a new offensive coordinator who hasn't been a coordinator in the league for a couple of years. Is Ken Dorsey, who last was offensive coordinator in the league playing with the Carolina Panthers.
Ken Dorsey?
Yes.
Like the Ken Dorsey?
Yeah, quarterback from Miami.
Okay. Sticks.
He was offensive coordinator for Carolina during Cam Newton's little run there. What do you guys think he's going to bring?
And they lost. They lost the front office guy to the Giants and the head coach to the Giants.
Oh yeah, that's right. Shane too.
Offensive coordinator, I should say. So yeah, there is a new regime. But
so I guess those are key losses, right? You can add those as key losses. But here we go.
It's crazy because in my notes, that's literally the first bullet point that I had, and I didn't even open it.
12th strength of schedule, Dave.
Okay, so
According to Scoop.
top 15 in the league. So top half of the league, bottom of that top 12, or top 15. But anyway, 16. Here's their schedule. It's not very easy. It's not very good at all. They're the kickoff. They're
bad.
It's pretty bad. Well, all I'll say is this. I'll preface it with this. You know how I do win-loss majority of the time? I got 6 question mark games.
Nice.
Like I have no idea which way it can go, and I'll tell you which ones are in a second. So the Rams, the kickoff, Thursday Night Football, kicks the year off. We all can't wait for that one. That's going to start the football season, right? It's the Rams. They're hanging their banner. It's going to be a feel-good night for Stafford and Cup and company. I don't know if the Bills can go on the road across the country and win this game. I don't think they could. As much as I like the Bills this year, the Rams are just that much better. So I like the Rams to win the first game. They'll get their first win in week 2. I think they beat the Titans. Now, 2 question mark games for the Bills. How do they do in Miami? What kind of defense is Miami going to be throwing at these guys? That's a question mark to me. At Baltimore, are they going to be able to run around with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore? Obviously, yes, the home team is always favored by the rules unless, the team is way better. The Bills might be favored in this one by a point, maybe. But it's going to be another question mark game. I don't know. Then they get a win against the Steelers. I think they go back home and do that. Another question mark game right off the rip. They got to go to Kansas City. A rematch of that big, crazy game last year. We don't know what Kansas City is going to bring. We're going to talk about Kansas City next week.
Kansas City?
In Kansas City. So that's another one. It's shit, I don't know, man. They get to the bye in week 7. Now, if you want to think about layups or you want to think about team wins in the first 6 weeks, I want to say there's only 2 that are layups.
Well, there's no layups.
Well, the layups I think are the Titans and the Steelers. I think they beat both of those.
There's
teams.
no layups, but they could also be 6-0.
And they could also be 2-4.
No, they're too good for that.
All right,
the Bills are not going to be 2-4.
Now off the bye, ready for this? Off the bye, your Green Bay Packers come in.
So
to Buffalo,
6-1.
And then they got to go to the Jets, which I believe they sweep the Jets this year, as good as I have the Jets doing this year. They'll beat the Vikings, I think. They'll beat the Browns. They'll beat the Lions, right? Week 13, troubling. I don't know why. It's I talked a bunch of shit, and I don't know exactly where I picked this game yesterday, but they got to go to New England, right? And it's just man, I don't. It's one of those. You never really know, right?
No, you definitely picked the Bills.
Okay, so maybe they get on the fine. So then the Jets, the Dolphins, both home games, they get those wins. They get a win in Chicago, I think. A big question mark game is at the end of the year. Are the Bengals and the Bills going to be running for that 1 spot? Maybe. You don't know. The Bengals are going to be good. We already talked about them. And then, of course, at the end of the year, they're home against the Patriots. I think they get that done. There's 6 questionable games on this schedule for me out of the 17-game season. Their floor right now, I think their floor, the worst they can do is 9-8. That's the absolute. That means things just went completely the wrong way because I think their ceiling is 13 wins this year. They can. No matter what, I'm slapping the over. I think the odds are probably better in my favor to get 12, 13 wins. That would mean that some of these question mark games, I shouldn't be putting them up as question marks. They should just be wins. So I think in the AFC, at the very least, you're looking at a 12, 13 win team this year as opposed to last year's. You have them at 11-6, by the way, on your 2021 records. Accurate?
Maybe.
All right. So when in any event,
Let me look.
it's going to be
That's accurate.
It's accurate. So not 10-7. Okay, so they went 11-6 last year. So Vegas thinks they're going to be a little bit better, maybe a game better. I think their ceiling is 13. And I think that would mean that they steamroll a couple of these question mark games that kind of put me on notice, saying, like, remember that time he questioned this game, and then they just go in there and beat the brakes off some of these teams. This team can put up points. This team is going to be very good. This offense is going to fly. This offense is absolutely going to fly, and don't even get me started on the defense. That defensive line is going to eat. So I'm definitely excited about the Buffalo Bills' chances to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be the Bills. We're going to go over the AFC West next week, but I think the Bills are there. I think the Bengals will kind of be in the mix. And then whoever comes out of the AFC West juggernaut of a division, I think they're over there. So they're there. So it's a matter of, can they get over the hump? Can they get to the promised land? Will they win it once they get there? Because we all know what happened in the early 90s and the 80s when they were there for 4 times in a row, couldn't win. Is this the year that Bills Mafia finally throws somebody through a table and celebrates a Super Bowl championship?
No.
Okay. So that's it. That's the show.
Maybe. No, they have a really good shot,
They do.
obviously. I said it 31 times in my little breakdown of the Bills. Looking at their schedule, I think the first 6 weeks, it's tough. I'm not sold on the Titans. The Dolphins in Miami. I think the Dolphins are going to be a tough team. They're going to be in a lot of close games. Whether they win them all or not, we'll find out. But that's going to be a good game, maybe. At Ravens, there's a little, trepidation on picking against or with the Ravens in any situation until we know what Lamar we're going to get this year. Even though their first 6 games I think are a little tougher than the rest of their schedule, they're still going to come out of that at the worst 4-2 because they're better.
Well,
they're the Bills.
2 or 4.
They're every team on that schedule. They're looking at them outside of the Rams, and it's the Bills are the big brother in that situation. Outside of possibly the Chiefs, but I was
going to say those are the 2 games that scare you. You think they run through the Titans, the Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Steelers? I'm
not saying that they're even going to win. Though they're going to be 4-2 at worst after their first 6 games.
Find me the 2 losses. The Rams and KC.
I mean, I'm not predicting them to go 4-2. I'm saying at worst they're going to go 4-2. I don't think they're going to lose. I think that 5-1 is on. The Bills are going to win a ton of games this year. They're the best team in the AFC. Because they have the experience now after getting close 2 years in a row. I mean, last year they weren't really close, but everyone's looking at the Chargers as the chick pick going into the AFC this year. I'm not really sold on the Chargers yet because they got to do it first. The Chargers are very similar to what the Bills were 2 years ago to me.
That's a good point.
I agree.
Yep.
So they have the roster, they have all the parts, they have an unproven head coach. He's going to have to prove himself to me a little bit more. Same thing with Herbert, really. Throws the picks a lot. He's an athletic guy, but got to win some games late in the season and prove your worth. Josh Allen, he's the front runner for the MVP. The Bills are plus 400 to miss the playoffs, minus 650 to make it. All signs are pointing towards the Bills having a good year. If I was to predict the over-under, I don't know if I would go over 11 wins or what was it, 11 and a half wins. So they got to win 12 games, and it's minus 140. So the odds are stacked against you. I'd rather just stay out of that one. I'm not going to bet against the Bills to lose games because I think they have a really good chance at 12 wins, but one thing happens wrong, an injury, you're at minus 140 to begin with, so you're having to lay a little extra money just to win your money back. I'm not sold on the over, but I'm not sold on the under either. So if I was going to bet a team win projection, the Bills would just keep them far away from me. Not enough wiggle room there.
Okay.